Thank you, Terence, for the introduction. Now I shall do the opening chants and the 5 precepts. Yeah, okay, so now we start. Homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. And the 5 precepts. Panatipada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kamesu miccācāra veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so we've been holding classes on Tuesdays Zoom. So this MSBS group have been holding classes for how many months? 4 months. Around there, yeah, Terence, yeah, 4 months, yeah. So every Tuesdays you have some half theory and half practical. So today is more on full practical, not much theory. I did send some PowerPoint slides to Terence though, very short theory on walking meditation. But actually walking is practical, so no need to theory. But if we sit down on Zoom, how to do walking meditation, right? So don't know how to do. Okay, so anyway, we'll just open the floor first for any questions on the ground. Any questions before we go on the full theory? Because I have until 10:30, right, to guide you all the meditation. Because I'm not taking the like you all have dinner after my before noon meal, then I don't makan really. Okay, no one has issues. Okay, so I just brief intro. Our meditation has 4 parts, 4 phases. So the first phase of the meditation is the detachment of the body, bodily meditation, bodily contemplation, a bit of Asubha meditation. And phase 2 is on the breath meditation, how to focus the mind. And phase 3 of the meditation is a bit like Vipassana, open awareness meditation. And the phase 4 of meditation is loving kindness, radiating metta. So if it's possible, can you kindly open your video, right? Because meditation, sometimes when I give instruction, if let's say I give on YouTube, it's all right. I can don't see you, then I can just give, and hopefully you can follow. But if a smaller group, it's good to see you, so I can roughly know what you're doing. Some people falling asleep, or maybe they're struggling, having a lot of tension. Then I'll give different instruction. Yeah. So smaller group easier to guide. If you like give openly record and play on YouTube, then I don't care. Just a few minutes, just give give next instruction. Yeah. Then we carry on. So we keep our bodies relaxed, close our eyes, and we can start with the first phase of meditation, bodily detachment. So we are going to scan from head to toe, and we are going to sort of feel the various sensations of the body. If you want, you can also visualize the parts of the body. So it's as though like looking at a mirror. Imagine yourself looking at the mirror and starting from the hair. Yeah, so we the untrained person will go to the extremes, either greed or my hair is so beautiful, my hair is so nice, right? So develop greed to the hair, or hatred, right? The hair is so ugly, I don't like this fashion, I don't like my hair. So this is hatred. So in practice, we are following the middle way. So the middle way is not the 50% of both, but avoiding both extremes. So we are first going to wish the hairs well and happy, loving kindness, to reduce aversion. So you can feel all the hairs from head to toe, right? Hairs of the head well and happy, and hairs of the body, may they be well and happy. And if you are done with wishing all the hairs well and happy, so that is one extreme you're overcoming, and the other extreme is greed. Right, so we are going to have non-greed, thoughts of non-greed. So every part of the hair, they are subject to impermanence, birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. And the hairs, they grow long, get oily, sweaty, dirty, turn white, and they crack, and they fall off. Every day there's lots of hair falling off. And then we can ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? Right? Do we have total control over the birth and death of the hairs? And next we can think of the nails, fingernails and toenails. May they be well and happy. And all the nails are subject to birth and death. The nails grow long. They collect dirt. They discolor due to diseases, malnutrition. They go through wear and tear, scratches and cracks, and they even chip off. Then we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through this birth and death? Then we can move on to the teeth, all the teeth in our mouth. May they be well and happy, all the upper rows of teeth. May they be well and happy, and all the lower rows of teeth. May they be well and happy. And all these teeth, they go through this birth and death. And they change in shape and size. They discolor. These get dirtied and the plaque build up. Then yellow, turn brown, and they decay, turn black, and they have tooth cavities. They grow holes, they get shaky, and eventually they fall off. And we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? And we tell the teeth not to go through this birth and death. And next we can think of the skin that surround the whole body. May all the skin be well and happy from head to toe. And all the skin are subject to birth and death. They get dirty, oily, sweaty, and they wrinkle, and they have skin problems, yeah, crack, uh, rashes, skin irritation, and red, boils, pimples, and the dead skin they follow every day. Then we can ask ourselves, are the skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through this birth and death? So once we are relatively detached from the body, then we can shift to the next phase of meditation. We are now going to feel the breath, feel the breathing, and below the nostril, above the upper lip. So basically, we are isolating the attention to one small area. And so we can forget about the rest of the body. Don't need to feel your windpipe, your lungs, or your diaphragm. Just one small area below the nostril, the skin contacting the air. And there's no need to control your breathing. Let your breathing be your natural reflex action. So whenever there's an inhalation, we wish the breath well. Exhalation, we wish the breath happy. So this is the most important step. Have loving kindness to the breath. Yeah, so we are not doing Qigong meditation. We are not training the breath. We're training the mind to be at peace with the breath. Just like earlier, we are not training the hair. We are not training the teeth. We are not training our skin. And all these are just objects of meditation. We are training the mind to detach. So similarly with the breath, we are not training the breath. So there's no need to force or coerce the breath or coerce the mind. This is normally the beginners kind of common problems. They want the mind to be still. So whenever they force or coerce the mind, that is a form of violence. That is aversion, yeah? Or certain greed. So there's desire. So the cause, when we have the cause of suffering, then there will be suffering. So when people force the mind to be still, then the more tension they have. So we're actually doing the opposite. We are reducing the cause of suffering, reducing desire. So we have loving kindness. We focus on the process, the loving kindness, and the byproduct will be the mind calming down by itself. So although the feeling may be nice, but never forget the right thought. And we call this thing right effort, constant repetition of the right thought. Yeah. So in meditation, especially my routine, there's lots of thinking. I don't believe in such thing called no thinking. Yeah? Some people say, sit down, no thinking. Once you have no thinking, you said the idle mind is the workshop for the devil. So once the mind just complacent, no thinking, then all the stray thoughts will come in. The mind will fantasize, will worry, will daydream, will fall asleep. Yeah. So continuously breathe in well, breathe out happy. And once the mind is relatively calm with this loving kindness, and having diplomacy in the mind, then you can introduce the truth to the mind. Right? So we observe the impermanence of the breath, the dharma of impermanence. So when we inhale, exhale, there is impermanence, there's change. So when we talk about impermanence of the breath, there can be a wide spectrum depending on how sensitive is your mind. You can just feel the in and out physical breath, that is a form of impermanence, or you can subcategorize the breath sensations into the four elements: earth, fire, wind, water. So earth being the hard and soft sensations, fire, warm and cold, wind, the fast and slow movements, and water, moist or dry. So when you breathe in and out, and maybe the temperature will change, the breathing rate will change, so the elements will change all the time. So there's always impermanence. So as you observe the four elements of the breath, some people might have more sensitive mind, then they might feel maybe the five aggregates. Yeah, they can feel maybe certain energy beyond the skin of the breath, outside of the skin even. Okay, so whatever range or spectrum of sensitivity, the whole idea is that is not so important. Yeah? The most important thing is constant reminder of the right thought. Always have right thought, have this thought of impermanence. So this thought of impermanence will create detachment. So there's no need to purposely generate the sensations, don't have to purposely create the element and the kind of stuff. Just be a passive observer, and whatever appears, we just take note that it's impermanent. So you can use whatever label: impermanence, rising, falling, birth and death, right? As long as you keep reminding and repeating, then the mind will create detachment and it will settle down. So continue to be mindful of impermanence until the mind settles to a point where it cannot settle even further. So if you find that the rate of settling of the mind is so negligible, then the mind would have reached a point of stability. So that will be the one pointedness of the mind. So we are using the one pointedness of the breath to achieve one pointedness of the mind. So the mind will transit. So what you need to do is enjoy this experience of calmness, but not forgetting the impermanence of the breath. It's just like a power plant. You need to transform certain, maybe say, kinetic energy to potential energy. Yeah? So the impermanence of the breath will create this stillness, yeah, this samadhi. And when you're enjoying this calmness, the whole idea, you have to remember the emotion as well. Yeah? Important to remember this emotion or this state of mind. It is important because as we go through the various levels of concentration, there will be different kinds of emotion. So it is like traveling to a new place. You have to take note of the landmark and the signpost so that you can familiarize yourself with the area. So likewise, it's good to remember the emotion and make sure the mind is calm. Once you have fulfilled the two criteria, then you can make a wish to let go of the mind, like releasing a spring, or just like a child letting go of a balloon. And once you release the mind, we can take a step back. That means without interfering, we let the mind evolve and naturally by itself. And we just observe its transition, any change of emotion. Yeah? And if the mind has arrived at the first level, then there will be an indicator, yeah, this new signpost, which is this emotion of joy and happiness. So if you cannot differentiate the two, then you just know it's a pleasant emotion. Then you take note of this emotion and also the impermanence of the breath. until the mind settles to a new point of calmness. So for those who just joined in, Holly and Jeff, we are actually uh, doing the first level of the breath meditation. Yeah? So if the mind has settled to this point of calmness, then you can enjoy this experience of the first level. Remember the emotion and also the impermanence of the breath. And if we have tasted the first level of concentration, make sure we fulfill the two criteria. Criteria 1, that you have remembered the emotion, and criteria 2, the mind has to be calm. So in meditation, the mind should be peaceful and calm. If there's any tension, means there's clinging. Yeah? So when there's clinging, you must apply impermanence or loving kindness to reduce the clinging. Okay, and if you have fulfilled the two criteria, then we have two options. Option one, you can choose to remain at the first level, or option two, you can choose to increase. And if you wish to increase, then we make the same wish to let go of the mind, just like a child letting go of a balloon. And once we release the mind, we take a step back without interfering. We just observe its transition as the mind evolves naturally by itself. And if the mind has arrived at the second level, then there will be a new indicator, a different kind of pleasant emotion, maybe a slightly more intense version of this joy and happiness. So you take note of this pleasant emotion and also the impermanence of the breath until the mind settles to a new point of calmness. And once the mind has settled down and calm, then you can enjoy this experience. Remember the emotion and also the impermanence of the breath. So for those who just join in, we are doing the breath concentration meditation halfway. If you want to start off, we can just feel the breath and have loving kindness to the breath. Inhale well, exhale happy. So for the rest is if you're at the third level, then you can enjoy the experience, remember the emotion, and also not forget the impermanence of the breath. Okay, so once you have tasted the second level of this concentration, make sure you fulfill the two criteria. First is you remember the emotion, and secondly, the mind has to be calm. Yeah. And if you have fulfilled the two, then you have two options. Option one, you can choose to remain at the second level, or option two, you can increase the level. So to increase the level, we can make a wish to let go of the mind, just like a child letting go of a balloon. And once we release the mind, we can take a step back without interfering. We let the mind evolve naturally by itself as we observe its transition, any change of emotion. And if you have arrived at the third level, then there will be a new indicator, a new pleasant emotion, which is comprising only of happiness. So there's no more joy. So you take note of this happiness and also the impermanence of the breath until the mind settles to a new point of calmness. And if your mind has calmed down to this new rate of calmness, then you can enjoy this experience. Remember the emotion and also the impermanence of the breath. And once you have tasted the third level of concentration, and make sure you fulfill the two criteria. First criteria, that you have remembered the emotion, and criteria two, the mind has to be calm. And if you have fulfilled the two criteria, then you can make a wish to let go of the mind, just like a child letting go of a balloon. Once you release the mind, then we can take a step back without interfering. We let the mind evolve naturally by itself as we observe its transition, any change of emotion. And if the mind has reached the fourth level, and if you have been doing it correctly all this while, you should have this new indicator, this new emotion called equanimity. So this emotion has no joy or happiness. I do not know how to describe, probably it's neutral, but supposed to be quite refreshing. So you take note of this emotion and also the impermanence of the breath until the mind settles to a new point of calmness. And once your mind has settled down, then you can enjoy this experience. Remember the emotion and also the impermanence of the breath. So in the Eightfold Path, the Noble Eightfold Path number 8 is this right concentration. So right concentration is defined as these 4 levels. The Pali word is the jhanas. Right? So once a person has equanimity or experiences equanimity, kinds of sharpen or purify one's mindfulness, at least temporarily. Yeah? So this jhanas is a temporary kind of recharging of the mind's battery. And if we have tasted the 4th level of concentration, make sure we fulfill the 2 criteria. Criteria 1, then we have remembered the emotion, and criteria 2, the mind has to be calm. Once we have the 2, then this time we reverse the order. We don't go up, we go down. So we make a wish for the mind to go down to level 3. So as the mind descends to level 3, we just observe the change and transition of the mind, any change of emotion. Once you have arrived at the 3rd level, the emotion of happiness should resurface. Then you can take note of the emotion and also the impermanence of the breath until the mind settles down. And the mind has settled down. That means you have fulfilled the two criteria. You remember the emotion and the mind is calm. Then you can make a wish to go down to the second level. So as the mind descends, you can observe its transition, any change of emotion. So once the mind arrived at the second level, the emotion of joy should resurface. So now it's a mixture of both joy and happiness. So it becomes a different pleasant emotion. So you take note of this emotion and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. And once the mind has settled down, and make sure you fulfill the two criteria. One, that you remember the emotion, and two, the mind is calm. Then you can make a wish for the mind to go down to level 1. So as the mind descends, you can observe its transition, the change of emotion. And if you have arrived at level 1, then it becomes a different pleasant emotion, less intense version of the joy and happiness due to the resurfacing of certain thought processes that clutter this emotion. So you can take note of this state of mind and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. And if the mind has settled down, make sure you fulfill the two criteria. One, that you remember the emotion. And number two, the mind has to be calm. Then we make a wish for the mind to go back down to ground zero, the original one pointedness of the breath. So as the mind descends, we can observe this transition, any change of emotion. Once the mind has arrived at level zero, the emotion should be bland, yeah? No more pleasant emotions. So take note of this, and also the impermanence of the breath for the mind to settle down. Because sometimes when people do different levels of concentration, there might be clinging or nice experience in clinging, yeah? And the mind may sort of have some, when they cling, then there will be tension. So it's important to have impermanence. Think of impermanence for the mind to uncling and let it settle back to the normal state of mind. And once the mind has settled down, then we can spread the awareness throughout the rest of the body. You can think of fingers and toes, and there's no need to feel the breath anymore. No need to focus on the breath. And once we are done, we can transit to the third phase of meditation. So this particular exercise, we are doing this open awareness meditation. So we're basically lifting all travel restrictions of the mind. So now you all have lockdown, yeah? So now we're unlocking the mind. We let the mind autopilot. We don't fixate the mind on anything. We don't focus in any area, and we don't exert or direct the mind anywhere. We let the mind naturally run free. So the whole idea of any Buddhist meditation is to practice detachment. So when the mind is at a wider area, the mind all over the place, scattered, how to practice detachment? earlier on we are using the mind, the 5 aggregates, right, to to focus on the aggregates and to build up concentration to develop peace. So now we are having the scattered mind. How can we develop peace with this scattered mind? So this is the normal daily activity mind. So when the mind is running all over the place, what we can do is this real-time contact tracing of the mind, this attention. So what we can do is observe the 4 elements, sensation. It can be even outside the body. Yeah? Wherever your attention is placed, it will be encompassed by the 4 elements: earth, fire, wind, and water. Earth, hot and soft sensations; fire, warm and cold; wind, fast, slow movements. So when your attention moves from one place to another, that is a subtle wind element, subtle movement of the mind. And water, moist or dry. Right? So when the mind moves, then the 4 elements are there, the 5 aggregates are together. So every moment you have to be aware, where is your attention now? It's like having a real GPS all the time, real-time tracking GPS of the mind. So there's no need to pull or push the attention. You just be a passive observer. And the whole idea of the exercise is to see things as they really are. Yeah? To understand the nature of the mind as it really is, and not what you want it to be. So normally this kind of vipassana meditation has 2 approaches: the bottom-up approach or the top-down approach. So the bottom-up approach requires lots of investigation of impermanence. Whenever there's a sense contact through the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, right, there are normally 2 options. One is we can have wrong thought. So once we contact with something, then there will be either pleasant or unpleasant feeling, and the mind will react wrongly with desire, greed, or aversion. Then we build a mountain out of a molehill, create dramas, stories, and movies, and there will be the samsara of the mind. And the right approach will be right thought. When the mind is in contact with a sense object, then you must remind yourself, it is impermanent, or you have loving kindness towards it. Then you can reduce the desire and reduce clinging. So this is the right approach. So this is the bottom-up approach. Yeah. So the top-down approach will be for those who has, let's say, achieved certain level of calm or samadhi, and whenever the mind has clinging or contact with clinging, then the mind will naturally be very sensitive to stress or suffering. Then you naturally want to rectify it and return to the peace. So that would be the top-down approach. So we are trying to do both. Yeah. So the attention has 5 aggregates, right? Form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. This 5. So in your mind, sort of move to one, pays attention to a particular area, and wherever it jumps to, then jumping is the mental formation activities. And the awareness of that area is the consciousness. Okay? So how is it aware? Because we have the sense organs and the object. So that is the form, yeah? So together there's name and form, nama rupa. So the whole idea is to observe the arising and passing away of the mind to create detachment. And if you wish to go further or find this exercise boring, then you can start to find where is the origin point of the mind. Where did the mind originate from? And when this attention disappears, where did it go to? Yeah? It's like the Chinese Zen question. And 生从哪儿来？死往哪儿去? Right? So this is the Zen homework, food for thought. So in the Satipatthana Sutta, they always mention who is mindful of the origination and passing away of the 5 aggregates of the breath, or the 4 elements, or whatever it is. So once we lose track of this arising and passing away, that means the mind is daydreaming somewhere. It's stuck in samsara. So having this in mind, we are now moving on to the 4th phase of meditation, which is radiating loving kindness. So using the same concept, whatever we learned to keep the peace of mind, so now we are deliberately directing the mind in various directions, but how to do it in a way without any stress, without any strain, without any suffering, without any clinging. Yeah? So we are now going to wish all beings in front, well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we wish all beings behind well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we wish all beings on the left well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we wish all beings on the right well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we wish all beings above well and happy. And we come back to ourselves, and we wish all beings below well and happy. And we come back to ourselves. This time we feel the whole body from head to toe with loving kindness and mindfulness of body internally, how to do it without clinging. And then eventually we are going to radiate the loving kindness to all the directions, above, below, and all across. And we are going to wish all beings at home well and happy. And then we can extend the loving kindness to the surrounding neighborhood. May all beings in the neighborhood be well and happy. And we can extend the loving kindness to the whole country. May all beings in your country be well and happy. And we can extend the loving kindness to the whole world. May all beings in this planet be well and happy. So as we wish for world peace, make sure the mind also has inner peace. Yeah? Mind is still detached and not too overreactive. And eventually, we wish all beings in the entire universe, may all beings be well and happy. Okay, so we maintain this loving kindness as long as possible. Just a reminder before we conclude. Just teaching from the Karaniya Metta Sutta that as long as a person is mindful of this boundless loving kindness, be it standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, then this is the highest conduct. Right? So with that in mind, we can formally end the meditation. We can open our eyes, but mentally, still meditating.